Hello, and welcome to the first episode of a new show called Hours In, an exploratory dive into various free games, demos, and more. This time, we're looking at a game called Arcade Paradise, developed by Nosebleed Interactive and published by Wired Productions. At the time of recording this segment, July 18th through 24th, 2024, Arcade Paradise is currently free on the Epic Games Store. Normally, it retails for, in Canadian dollars, $22.68 on Steam, $21.99 on Epic, and $28.34 on the Nintendo Switch. Again, that's in Canadian dollars. The game plays as sort of a tycoon management simulator type game. We play as Ashley, a teenage business student whose father has tasked us with running his laundromat as a sort of learning character building experience. After a short movement tutorial, we get walked through some of the minutiae of a day at the laundromat. The laundry part is pretty self-explanatory. Pick up dirty laundry from the counter using E, walk to a washing machine, and load by holding E. Side note here, later on, I actually found it easier to change it to toggle E for loading and unloading laundry in the options menu. Anyway, after some time has passed, usually about 3 minutes, we remove the laundry from the machine and repeat the process for the dryer. While we're waiting for our first washing machine load, our father walks us through the trash collection process. It's a good idea to keep the laundromat clean, as I will explain a little later. Collecting most trash is also pretty simple. Look at the trash you want to collect, press E to collect it. You may need to crouch using Control for some pieces. There are sometimes pieces of gum stuck to various things. It is a public place, after all. Picking up the gum causes a QuickTime event minigame where you need to land the meter close to the top a few times to pull the gum from its hiding place. You do get a little extra cash for doing this, at least. As you collect garbage, a trash meter will start to fill. Once it's full, you will no longer be able to collect any more garbage until you visit the dumpster. Like Dad says, head out the laundromat's front doors, turn right, and you'll see it. Pressing E on the dumpster with a full trash meter starts a small minigame. Like the gum, you'll want to press the button to land the meter as close to the red as possible. Doing this will reset your garbage meter and grant you some additional money. After that, our wash is done, and it's time for our first dryer load. Go back to the washing machine that you put your first load of laundry in. The first time, it will be marked with an arrow, but later on you can tell which machines have laundry in them by looking at the baskets. A washing machine with laundry in it will have a basket on top of it. A dryer in the top row that's full will have a basket a few feet in front of it on the floor, and a dryer that has laundry in it on the bottom row will have a basket right up against it on the floor. Alternatively, and actually I found this to be a bit more useful and practical, at least for dryers anyway, is to look at the time display on the machines themselves. Only machines with laundry in them's displays will be lit up. The time displayed on the machine will be counting down to 0 in seconds. When the machine is done, the display will display the word end. This is extremely useful for when you have multiple machines running. While the dryer is going, I'm sure we can find some other menial tasks to do. When your watch beeps and displays WC, meaning water closet, I assume, it's time to unclog the toilet. Once in the washroom, press E to begin yet another minigame. This one involves rotating the plunger using your mouse to find the sweet spot, then left-clicking repeatedly to lower the clog's HP. I think sometimes you may have to move the plunger a few times after finding the sweet spot, but so far I have been able to find it once, then repeatedly left-click until the clog faints, browns out, gets unclogged, whatever. Now, it's time for the final stage of the laundry process. I might be in the minority here, but it actually took me a second to figure this out, despite the large arrow, obviously. Once you remove the laundry from the dryer, you place it for the customer to, seemingly instantly, collect on the counter opposite from where you got it from. After that, we head to the office in the back past our lovely arcade machines. I'll expand on them a little later, but for now, we just need to hop onto the computer and chat with our sister. Press and hold Q to exit at any time. This applies for the computer and the arcade machines. We type automatically in the chat, but still have to click the reply button with our definitely not a virus custom cursor, or, as it took me way too long to figure out, hit the spacebar. Doing this also speeds the text along if you're into that sort of thing. Our sister tells us about the hoppers in each arcade machine and in the token machine out front. By crouching down using control and approaching any arcade machine, you can collect all the money contained within it by pressing E. Now, I actually found this part a little bit tricky, believe it or not. It's a little bit janky to target the hoppers on certain machines, and since pressing E is also the key that causes you to play the machine, more often than not in the beginning, I had to sort of fumble around waiting for the hopper to be highlighted before I press E. Note, you can turn on a gigantic circular crosshair in the options menu, but I didn't really find it all that helpful. The technique I use now is crouching, then walking right up to the machine, like almost like I'm trying to walk through it, and then pressing E. After we empty the hoppers of all of our lovely arcade cabinets, plus the token machine in the front again, though not the vending machines for whatever reason. Maybe they're empty right now and we get to fill them later or something, I'm not sure. Anyway, it turns out we've amassed a small fortune in 1990s money. We'd better put it in the safe. Next up is the safe unlocking minigame. There's a diagram to the left of the safe to reference, but honestly I've just been turning the safe, the dial I should say, using WASD until the camera zooms all the way in, then hitting E to move on to the next digit. Do this 3 times, it will open the safe and deposit all the money you currently have into it. The safe serves as your bank account, essentially. But what do we do with all this money from the arcade games? Well, we buy more arcade games, obviously, with the long-term goal seeming to be gradually changing the laundromat into a full-blown arcade. For now, we'll just have to settle with adding one more cabinet in the tiny little back room, though. On the website our sister linked us, Arcademia, it looks like we have 2 choices: Strike Gold and Stack Overflow. Now that I've played both games, I do like both of them, but I think I prefer Strike Gold. More on that later. Either way, after we buy our first machine, our mandatory training is over. Depending on what time it is, check the time by holding tab to bring up your watch. We can use the rest of the day to play games, do laundry, pick up trash, look at the people that have just appeared, but not too closely. Or we can head to the bus stop across the road to go home and get a fresh start on tomorrow. Now is probably a good time to talk about time. Minutes in this universe seem to pass as seconds in our universe. Holding the tab key brings up our Not Casio watch, which, in addition to serving as a sort of reminder system for things like laundry, clogged toilets, chat messages, etc., it also shows us the time in GigaChad 24-hour format. The business is open from 0800 to 2300, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. You can stay after closing, but the arcade machines will not generate income. And if you stay later than 2 a.m., you risk passing out, a la Stardew Valley. The next day, our first arcade machine arrives, and we are introduced to the blueprint/arcade layout menu by pressing, not holding, the tab key. Here, we can pick where our new machine is installed, as well as rearrange certain other machines. this is probably a good time to talk about the arcade games themselves. The arcade games have some interesting sort of tycoon games mechanics. Each game has a popularity level. Some games are more popular than others, and you can boost the revenue generated by the less popular machines by placing them next to the more popular ones inside of the arcade layout menu. You can view these popularity stats, tweak the settings, learn how to play / the controls, and find out how to increase the popularity of each game in the Arcade Management tab of your PDA, which can be accessed by hitting the Escape key. The Save and Quit option, as well as the options menu mentioned earlier, can also be found here. The games themselves are actually pretty fun and addicting, and can be played by walking up to them and pressing E. So far, I've played and enjoyed Racer Chaser, a nod to early Grand Theft Auto, I assume, based on the name alone, but the game itself plays like a sort of interesting take on Pac-Man. Collect all the cash in your car, but avoid the cops. If the cops hit you while you're in your car, you are forced to flee on foot to another vehicle. You can slow the law down by either getting a tank power-up while in your car and running them down, essentially a power pellet from Pac-Man, or, while on foot, blasting them with your music using the spacebar. There's also a nitrous oxide power-up that you can get while in your car that will give you a boost when you hit space. Overall, pretty fun. Strike Gold. Kind of a Mr. Driller Dig Dug looking game. You're a miner digging downward using a pickaxe. Dig down as far as you can, while being careful not to get crushed or run out of oxygen. Each block you dig up will also break all the connected blocks of the same color. Oxygen and gold pickups can be found every now and again. Save up your gold to buy persistent upgrades. Note that these upgrades stay even after you leave the machine and come back. Stack Overflow, a puzzle game where you move boxes trying to match their color. You can only move a box onto either an empty pallet or a box of the same color. It looks like there's an undo button in the bottom right, though I've never used it. Wood Gal's Adventure, a three-of-a-kind Bejeweled-like, where you swap the positions of various fruits, attempting to make three-of-a-kind and make them disappear. In between the timed puzzle segments, the game has an overworld filled with creatures to navigate. Running into one of these beings will throw you into a fruit matching level where you have a certain amount of time to fill the beast's yum meter, aka get a certain amount of points before time runs out. Doing this successfully will grant you a star. You can trade in stars of different colors on the overworld to repair bridges, which lets you move forward. So far, I have the first 2 bridges unlocked, and I'm only a few orange stars away from the next bridge. Like in real life, it's very easy to get lost in these games and neglect your laundromat duties. This is where the Dandori-like aspects come into play. I find you need to balance a few different things in order to manage your time effectively. Laundry, trash collection, arcade management, and time awareness. Laundry should be completed with a certain briskness, as the faster it's done, the higher rank you receive, and the higher rank you receive, the more you get paid for the load. You need to allocate your gaming time effectively, and sometimes choose between exiting the game to move laundry quickly, or pressing on to the next checkpoint and possibly getting a worse rank on the laundry. General time awareness is also important. There's a few times where I started my last loads of laundry way too late in the night, and had no choice but to either risk passing out or complete the laundry the next morning and receive a poor rank. Remember, you need just over 6 minutes of real time to complete a load. 3 minutes washing, 3 minutes drying, 20-30 seconds of loading, unloading, fumbling around. All of this brings me to my next point. Why do we want to play the games anyway? Shouldn't we just keep an eye on the laundry and ignore the games? Well, as I explained before, Meeting certain gameplay goals on the machines will increase that machine's popularity and enable you to earn more passive income from that machine. In addition to this, later on in the game, there's going to be rotating goals from pops in the Palm Pilot, which upon completion grant the game's secondary currency, pounds sterling. You may have noticed that on the computer next to our bank balance in dollars, there's a secondary currency balance with a mock eBay logo. This is obviously our British bank account. As I said before, when we complete our first daily goal in the PDA, our dad sends us a little bit of Blighty money and a link to a Twilight Zone version of eBay that only takes British pounds and only has the buy it now option. From the name of the desktop shortcut, you can probably guess what kinds of things this website sells. Upgrades. From this website, we can purchase various things that help us do our job more effectively, but not necessarily upgrades to the arcade itself. I sort of skipped over it earlier, but with enough money, our sister can use her job at City Hall to give us a Nepo bump and get the zoning and permits approved for knocking down a wall in the back and increasing the size of our arcade section. Neither here nor there, but I thought I should mention it before we get into the personal upgrades. Scrolling through the Pounds Bay, we see that we can buy all the usual stuff for this sort of game. Sneakers that let us sprint while using the shift key, better garbage bags that let us hold more trash before needing to visit the dumpster, a stoner assistant that will automatically collect the cash from the hoppers and put it in the safe for us, etc. At first glance, the most valuable one to me looks to be the Beginner's Guide to Space and Time, which slows down time, meaning we'll get a longer day and can make more money and play more games. The car could also be handy too, since it lets us open the store a bit earlier. And that brings us all the way up to where I left off in the game before starting this video, at 3 hours in. What do I have to say about this game? Should you play it? Will I continue and make another segment on it in a few more hours? As a whole, Arcade Paradise is a really unique experience. If you reduce it down to its core elements, sure, it can be said that it's a standard tycoon / management / busy work game with random retro-inspired minigames sprinkled on top. But I think that would be a bit like saying cinema is just one picture after another in quick successions with sound over the top. It is technically true, but it's not really a good description. Arcade Paradise has a certain vibe to it that I can't really explain. It's like the player character Ashley is in some sort of purgatory. We see other people, but the minute we get close to them, they get dithered away into nothing. The closest game I can think of with anything even close to this sort of feel would be the coin game, maybe. It's not quite scary like a horror game, but it's sort of eerie. From a gameplay perspective, though, I can absolutely see how the loop might get a bit repetitive. Wake up, load wash, clean trash, load dryer, collect hoppers, fill safe, play games, complete laundry, repeat. But personally, I find it to be fun, casual, and a relaxing game so far. For $0 on the Epic Store, I have definitely gotten my money's worth. But would I buy it at standard retail price? I'm honestly not sure yet. I'll be putting some more hours in, so expect a part 2 to this video sometime soon with a more definitive answer. But should you play it? Here is a rapid-fire list of features, pros, cons, and my experience so far. Pros: fun arcade game, relaxing gameplay, interesting vibes, nostalgic atmosphere. Cons: may possibly turn out to be a bit repetitive with more time spent. The controls can be a little janky sometimes, like emptying the hoppers and stuff, as I explained earlier. And like many busy work / simulator type games, for certain people it can feel like you're doing a digital job that you haven't really been paid to do. At this point, I would say that if the footage and description you've seen here appeals to you even a little bit and you have a PC and an Epic account, it really can't hurt to get it. Try it for an hour or two, see if you like it. At the very least, add it to your count before July 25th, 2024. Just so you have it, you can try it later maybe. I'm having fun so far, but as I say, I'll have to spend some more time with it just to know for sure if I recommend buying it for those who either don't have a PC or miss the freebie. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you for the next part of this episode. You've been watching 3 Hours in Arcade Paradise, Part 1.